Unlike Axis and Allies, our game is different. We borrow the rules for diplomacy. Now, the unique thing about diplomacy is that everybody goes at the same time. Most board games, like Axis and Allies, is everybody takes turns, but this is unrealistic, and it's really not very fun to play if it's not your turn, because you've got to do a lot of waiting. In this game, everybody's going. It's unique and brilliant, in fact, because everybody gets to go at the same time. Now, how does that work? It's very simple. In diplomacy, you write down what it is that you want to do. And everybody writes down what it is that they want to do. And when everybody's done that, you swap orders, your orders, with somebody in the opposing team, and all orders are written out. So let's say, for example, America here, with its fleet, wants to move from Sea Zone 59 to 58. But at the same time, Japan also wants to move into Sea Zone 58. Well, what they would write would be, Japan would write the order, Fleet 41, Arrow 58. America would also write Fleet, or F 59, Arrow 58. And at the stage when everybody reads out the orders, both orders would be read out and both movements would take place. So both fleets would move into Sea Zone 58. After, when everybody's moved, then the battles will commence. And these all can happen simultaneously. There's no order. It can all happen at the same time. There'll be many battles going on around the board. So let's simulate this battle here to see what happens. Now, America should win because they have the same ships, but there's a damage marker. Japan's fleet is obviously damaged. Now, so it doesn't matter who fires first, both will fire really at the same time. But let's fire American guns first. So we've got the battleship, and it's going to fire. Now, battleships have two sets of guns. It has its main set of guns. Now, there's three of them. There's two at the front, and there's one at the back. Okay, main banks of guns. Those are its heavy guns. It can use its heavy guns now to fire at the Japanese battleship, and that's what it'll do. So it has three sets or banks of heavy guns. That means it will roll three dice. What it's trying to get is threes, 1, 2, or a 3 to score a hit. So let's roll. And it scores one hit on the Japanese battleship. Now I'm going to put a counter over here to designate an extra hit. Now that hit won't come into play really until the Japanese get to fire their guns. So I'll put that hit on at the end. It also has secondary guns, and it has a battleship has a lot of secondary guns. In fact, it has 5 secondary guns, but it has to get ones. Now, secondary guns are much smaller and can't damage the armour on a battleship, but they can hit the Japanese cruiser. So that's what it will try and do. And all 5 miss. And that's not uncommon, because to get a 1 is quite tricky. Now, it also has its cruiser, so its cruiser's guns can fire. It also has 3 main guns, but it is looking for 1s and 2s. And its main guns will fire at the Japanese battleship. And amazingly, it gets 2 hits. So it's another 2 hits on the battleship. And it has secondary guns, which it only has 3 secondary guns. And the secondary guns are also 1, which it will fire at the cruiser, Japanese cruiser. And all secondary guns miss. It's now the Japanese turn to fire. Japanese main guns are going against the American battleship. It's looking for 3s or below. And it scores 2 hits, which was a very good score. Because now the American ships have completed their firing, I can now put in the damage markers. Now a battleship has 4 hit points. Cruisers have 2 hit points. This battleship now has received 2 hits. So instead of using the 2 damage markers, we designate that by, like in the same way of Axis and Allies, tipping it on its side. So that we know that it's half damaged, it's been hit twice. Okay, the battleship has fired its main guns. It can also now fire its secondary guns, which it has 5, and it'll fire against the American cruiser. And misses with all of its secondary guns. Now that's the Japanese battleship has fired. I'll just fire now the guns for the cruiser. So the cruiser's main guns will fire against the battleship, and it scores 1 hit. So that's another hit onto the American battleship. And I can supply that because he's finished his turn. And the secondary guns then against the American cruiser. And we're looking for 1s, and it misses. That's the end of the first round of fire.